So to help us make sense of all of this is financial columnist Taha Arvas. Taha, thank you very much for being with us once again. So a muted reaction on the markets. Do you think this was a reaction to that smaller than expected margin?
I think the yes vote winning was priced in. I mean, if you look at the polls that came out a couple of weeks ago and up to the election day, the vast majority of poll companies predicted this win. In fact, 2 or 3 were right on the button. So I think the victory was priced in. But having said that, you saw the Turkish lira gain tremendously against the U.S. dollar. So I think markets kind of applauded the referendum's outcome.
Yeah, it was quite a reaction to begin with, and then we sort of lost some of that momentum going forwards through the day. What can we expect now in terms of economic policy, now that the government and Recep Tayyip Erdogan have what they want? I
think this referendum was not only a referendum on the amendments to the Constitution, it was also kind of a refresher. Imagine it as a proxy vote for what the government's currently doing economically. Obviously, there are some slowdowns in the world in general, and Turkey has been affected by those. But I think the yes winning points out that the government is taking important steps, including heavy fiscal stimulus. And I think that's the reaction you saw today or yesterday in the polls in the election.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the run-up to the campaign, to the referendum, and what has been said since then, do you think that the course that the government is planning is what Turkey needs in terms of the fundamental economic changes that need to happen over the next decade or so?
I think yes, to an extent, and the reason is that there are several aspects of the economy that need to be liberalized as soon as possible. And if you look back at the constitution that we currently have in place in Turkey, the 1980 constitution, a military constitution, if you will, you see many aspects of the constitution are outdated. And this is the 18th amendment to the constitution, which is practically the amount of amendments the United States has had in 250 years. So it wasn't a great constitution to begin with, but they've changed it, and I think that will allow the government to take steps to liberalize the economy faster, as opposed to what it was in the past.
Let's take a look at these unemployment numbers that came out today. Seems to be getting worse. Do you think this had any bearing on the result?
I think what's interesting to note, if you dig deep into the unemployment numbers, the headline number does appear to be, the nominal number appears to be worse, but seasonally adjusted, the unemployment rate actually went down, which is great news. So essentially, last quarter was worse than this quarter was. And that's a direct result of the fiscal stimulus that the government did. It pumped in a lot of money into the economy, and it allowed for companies that hired new people to offset their taxes. So the government actually subsidized taxes for new hires. And so that brought unemployment down from 12% to 11.8% seasonally adjusted in these last numbers.
Yeah, you can't escape though. I mean, just looking at some of the reactions we had over there, you know, from Istanbul, Diyarbakir, Izmir, all these places, that people are feeling some of the effects of what we've seen. How is the government going to change those kinds of perceptions?
I think those feelings are a result of the of imports, the shock to the Turkish lira that occurred almost 9 months ago, passing through the economy. So prices have just now started to increase. And you saw in the piece there that the gentleman was saying 1,000 liras is no longer enough to, and he's right in that those prices have just been felt by the average consumer. But I think we will see a serious correction in the Turkish lira dollar exchange rate, and maybe by the end of the year we might even be back to 3 liras per the dollar, because there's really nowhere to go but up here as far as because our fundamentals are strong, and we are a foreign market dominated economy. 60% of our stock exchange is owned by foreigners, by non-Turks, and that means they believe, and that number only goes up. And now that we have this referendum and continuity, I think we're going to see a lot more money flow into Turkey.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of foreign investment, because we have something of an investment gap, meaning that we need X amount of investment and we only have this much of savings. And that gap has to be filled by foreign direct investment. Do you think that this referendum is going to help attract more foreign direct investment?
I think it will, and the reason is, despite whatever your politics are, I think economists and people in finance the world over always want continuity, and they want to alleviate uncertainty. And what this referendum did was preserve that continuity and also signal that uncertainty was this, at least for the next 2.5 years, uncertainty has been taken off the table. And that will lead to foreign direct investment. Otherwise, people were waiting in the wings, waiting to see what would happen. If the referendum went the other way, they may have said, oh, I'm going to stay away because who knows what's going to happen. So I think this will attract a lot of investment.
Financial columnist Taha Arvas, thank you very much for being on Money Talks once again.